She thought she had met him, the one who would complete her, the man sent by God. They were young, passionate, and full of dreams, singing together in the choir of their small but vibrant church. When Daniel looked at Sarah, his eyes sparkled with admiration, and when they harmonized in worship, it felt like heaven touched earth. But what started as a romance wrapped in melodies quickly unraveled into a nightmare of deceit, shame, and heartbreak. Sarah was 22 when Daniel first asked her out. He was charismatic, with a voice that could make the pews tremble, and a charm that had the church's young women whispering about him. But he chose Sarah, sweet, devoted Sarah, who had spent her life trying to live up to her parents' expectations. Her parents, however, weren't impressed. They warned her about Daniel's reputation for flirtation and inconsistency, but Sarah was head over heels. She believed their love was different, that it was ordained by God. When she became pregnant at 23, the whispers in the congregation turned to outright gossip. Despite her parents' pleas to reconsider, Sarah married Daniel at 24, determined to prove the world wrong. The honeymoon phase didn't last long. By the time Sarah was 25, the cracks in their relationship had turned into chasms. Daniel's charm hid a darker side. He was controlling, quick-tempered, and manipulative. He belittled her, accusing her of being ungrateful and overly emotional. When his words weren't enough, he used his fists. "You think anyone else would want you?" He sneered during one of their many arguments. "You're nothing without me." To make matters worse, Daniel's faith was a facade. He was deeply involved in the church, leading worship and teaching Bible studies. But behind the scenes, he was having affairs with multiple women in the congregation. Sarah discovered text messages, overheard whispered conversations, and even found herself sitting beside one of his mistresses during a Sunday service. The humiliation was unbearable. Despite the abuse and infidelity, Sarah stayed. She felt trapped by shame, by fear, and by the pressure to maintain the illusion of a godly marriage. She covered for Daniel, smiling in public while crying herself to sleep at night. When her parents tried to reach out, she shut them down, too proud to admit they had been right. "I'll pray for him," she told herself, clinging to the hope that God would change him. But as the years passed, her prayers began to feel hollow, and her faith wavered. She lost her joy, her peace, and even her voice, both literally and metaphorically. Singing in the choir, once her greatest passion, became a painful reminder of the life she thought she would have. At 26, Sarah had enough. She caught Daniel in another affair, this time with a young woman who had joined the choir under his mentorship. The betrayal was the final straw. For the first time in years, Sarah stopped pretending. She packed her bags, took her child, and walked out the door. The divorce was messy, public, and devastating. Sarah's name was dragged through the mud by Daniel's supporters in the church, who accused her of being unforgiving and rebellious. But for the first time in years, Sarah felt free. She turned back to God, pouring out her pain and anger in raw, unfiltered prayers. And when she had nowhere else to turn, she went back to her parents, begging for their forgiveness. Her parents welcomed her with open arms. "We never stopped loving you," her mother said, holding her as she wept. The years that followed were difficult, but transformative. Sarah found a new church, one where she could heal without judgment. She worked tirelessly to rebuild her confidence and provide for her child. Slowly she rediscovered her voice, both in her music and in her spirit. She began singing again, this time with a rawness and authenticity that touched everyone who heard her. As the years passed, Sarah learned to forgive herself for the choices she had made. She even forgave Daniel, though she vowed never to let him back into her life. She thought she had closed that chapter for good. 15 years later, Daniel showed up at Sarah's door. He was almost unrecognizable, older, grayer, and visibly humbled. He confessed to everything: the affairs, the lies, the abuse. He told her about how his life had fallen apart after their divorce, how he had hit rock bottom, and how God had broken him and rebuilt him from the inside out. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said, tears streaming down his face, "but I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I was a monster, and you didn't deserve what I put you through." Sarah didn't know how to feel. Part of her wanted to slam the door in his face, but another part, the part that had spent years praying for his soul, felt a flicker of hope. Over time, as they talked and prayed together, that flicker grew into something neither of them had expected. Against all odds, Sarah and Daniel remarried. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't made lightly. Sarah set strict boundaries, ensuring that Daniel proved his transformation before she let him back into her life. This time, their relationship was built on honesty, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to God. Today, they tell their story to anyone who will listen, not as a fairy tale, but as a testament to the power of grace, redemption, and the God who restores even the most broken lives. Sarah no longer hides her scars. They become part of her testimony, proof that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. 15 years ago, I thought my story was over, Sarah says now. But God wasn't finished with me. He wasn't finished with us. And if He can redeem our mess, He can redeem yours too. Thanks for staying with us as we share relatable stories of infidelity. See you in our next video. Remember, the voice of hope still saves, but no matter what, make sure you emerge healed and stronger, leaning on a strength bigger than yours. You'll scale through. You'll sure make it.